All right, guys, come on in. While you're waiting for other people to join us, try to get your Kahoot set up. We're going to do a Kahoot here as a review for our cardiovascular system. So if you want to start getting that set up, if you have a separate phone, then you can just set it up on the phone and do that. Or you can sort of minimize your Zoom screen so you have half your Zoom and then half your Kahoot. So whatever way works best for you. And hopefully we get a couple more than just 2 people. All right, just wait a second. I'll give another minute here, guys. All right, I'll just get this Kahoot here set up here. And boy, I can't believe we have so few people here today. Maybe it's just too nice out. Oh. One second, I just want to do this a little differently. Okay, so just get your Kahoot ready here. I'm just going to make sure I have the game options I want. I think I do. Perfect. All right, well, people are late coming, then they can join us later. All right, so I'm going to share the Kahoot screen with you. So if you guys can just log on to Kahoot. So we're just waiting for people to log into Kahoot. Can everyone see the PIN number? Oh, there we have one. Blue Dragon. Well, so far Blue Dragon's going to be the winner by default. Oh, good. Bright Ferret. Who's next? Got 2 more of you to log on here. Oh, hold on. Well, just log in after, guys. The game is starting. So, pulmonary veins carry deoxygenated blood. Yeesh. True or false? Okay, 3 of you played this game, and the answer is false. That goes to Bright Ferret. Way to go. Okay, next one. The game pin should be at the bottom of the screen now, Braden. I'll just type it in. 2758487. 2758487. I think that's right. Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. Next, reason universal, or individuals rather, with blood type O are considered universal donors is because their plasma has anti-A and anti-B antibodies, or doesn't have anti-A and anti-B antibodies. Or their blood cells have A and B antigens, or their blood cells do not have A and B antigens. What makes them universal donors? All right, 2 out of 3 of you. I'm hoping you're getting this, Braden. I did share that on the chat what the number was. Okay, Bright Ferret is doing good. Joyful Glider is now needing to catch up because they started late. Person ages their stroke volume blank and the elasticity of their blood vessels blank. And we have you know what? I have a wrong answer there. I just looked at and realized. Sorry, guys. I will fix that later. Okay, prefix vaso means. All right, you should all get this. We've talked about this lots and lots in class. Prefix vaso. Vaso means vessel. Yes, everyone takes it. Awesome. Okay. So right now, Bright Ferret has a 1,000 point lead. The valve found in between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Left atrium and left ventricle. And this is bicuspid. Bicuspid. Ooh, Bright Ferret takes it. All right, next one. When exposed to anti-B antibodies, the blood types that will agglutinate are, okay, agglutinate, fancy word for clumping. So what's the blood type that will clump? Okay, type B and AB. So we want to remember if there's anti-B antibodies, it's going to clump with anything that has a B antigen. A blood test shows a high level of white blood cells. This may indicate the individual is at risk of a heart attack, is fighting an infection, has diabetes, has anemia. Ooh, an infection. High white blood cells is an infection, most likely. All right, Bright Ferret's taking a handy lead here. Next one, muscular layer of the heart. So the heart has different layers: pericardium, myocardium, endocardium, epicardium. Myocardium. Myo is muscle, so that's the prefix for muscle. So that helps us with that question. Okay. The right side of the heart pumps blood into the pulmonary circuit, systemic circuit, coronary circuit. Where does the right side pump the blood? What circuit does it pump it into? Pumps it into the pulmonary circuit because it goes to the lungs, and pulmonary is lungs. All right. Hemoglobin is a protein that is attached to platelets, dissolved in blood plasma, attached to leukocytes, or attached to erythrocytes. Yes, it's attached to erythrocytes, not dissolved in the blood plasma. Remember, it hangs on to the red blood cells. Okay. All right, Joyful Glider is taking a handy second place here. Oxygenated blood is transported from the lungs to the heart through the pulmonary vein, vena cava, pulmonary artery, aorta. From the lungs to the heart. Pulmonary vein, absolutely. That vein, remember, veins carry blood to the heart. Okay. Joyful Glider, 6 right answers in a row. Jim has blood type AB. The type of antibodies in his blood plasma are neither anti-A nor anti-B, anti-B, anti-A, or anti-A and anti-B. Ooh, neither anti-A nor anti-B. Okay. Next we have, when blood exits the right ventricle, it must go through which valve? So after the right ventricle, what valve does it go through? The pulmonary valve. The pulmonary valve. Ooh, Joyful Gliders catching up to Bright Ferret, only 2,000 point spread. Thrombo is a prefix that means pressure, white, red, clot. And it means clot, thrombo. Thrombocytes are platelets. They help with our clotting. Okay, next. Compared to a couch potato, an athlete has a blank stroke volume and a blank heart rate. An athlete has a blank stroke volume and a blank heart rate. Okay, higher stroke volume and lower heart rate. Ooh, Joyful Gliders takes the lead. Okay, contraction of the heart is also known as diastole or systole. All right, next we have oxygen is released to the body tissues through what type of blood vessel? What type of blood vessel? Arterial, vein, capillary, artery. Ooh, capillary. Capillary is where that exchange happens, where oxygen is going into the capillary. Or sorry, oxygen is going from the capillary into the cells. Capillary walls are impermeable to electrolytes, dissolved gases, water, or plasma proteins. Ooh, plasma proteins is the right answer. Plasma proteins and blood cells can't make their way through the capillary. Way to go, Bright Lemming. During ventricular systole, which valves are open? Pulmonary and aortic, pulmonary and tricuspid, bicuspid and aortic, bicuspid and tricuspid. Okay, pulmonary and aortic. Ooh. All right. The atrioventricular valves are the aortic and pulmonary valves, aortic and bicuspid valves, pulmonary and tricuspid valves, bicuspid and tricuspid valves. And we have bicuspid and tricuspid valves. They're the ones that are between the arteries and the, atria and ventricles. Okay, what type of blood vessel has valves and is under lower pressure? Arterial, vein, capillary, artery. Oh, veins are the ones with valves. Veins have valves. Okay, Joyful Glider is taking a lead. Bigger lead. The area of the heart that divides the right and left ventricles is called the, it divides. The septum, the pericardial cavity, myocardium, endocardium. And the septum. Good. Glad you guys remember that. Okay, next we have osmotic pressure is based on the concentration of electrolytes, red blood cells, plasma proteins, dissolved gases. It's based on plasma proteins. And the reason osmotic pressure hardly ever changes is because plasma proteins typically stay constant because they can't get out of the cell. The major blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood through the upper leg. Oxygenated blood through the upper leg. I see we have someone's joined us. The Kahoot pin number is at the bottom if you want to join us, just to get some extra practice in. 2758487. It's also on the chat. Femoral artery, carotid artery, iliac artery, brachial artery. Ooh, femoral, where the femur is. Femoral artery. Okay, next, the vein that carries deoxygenated blood through the neck. Okay, so it runs through the neck. Deoxygenated blood through the neck. Iliac vein, jugular vein, subclavian vein, femoral vein. Okay, the jugular. Excellent. 3 for 3. Okay, next. Prefix peri means above, next to, below, around. And it means around. Think of perimeter. Perimeter also means we're measuring around something. Ooh, blue dragon got head of bright lemming. Nice. Increasing fiber in your diet helps to decrease the amount of salt in your blood, bad cholesterol in your blood. Bad cholesterol, 3 for 3. Good job, you guys. Okay, it's pretty close between blue dragon and bright lemming. Peripheral resistance increases when blood volume is decreased, the blood is less viscous, vasodilation occurs, the blood vessels are less elastic. Ooh, guys, the blood vessels are less elastic. No one, less elastic, so they're not moving very good to support the blood. What are the names of the blood vessels that supply oxygenated blood to the cells of the heart muscle? The cells of the heart muscle. The coronary arteries. So arteries carry the oxygenated blood to these cells. Ooh, bright lemming is ahead of blue dragon, although joyful glider is quite a bit ahead. The blood pressure at the arterial end of the capillary is greater than the venous end, less than the venous end. So remember, there's two ends to the capillary, a venous end and arterial end. The blood pressure at the arterial end is greater. Yes. Oh, got that. Which chamber of the heart has the thickest muscle? Right atrium, left ventricle, left atrium, right ventricle. Thickest muscle, so therefore the strongest muscle. The left ventricle, because it's pumping the blood the furthest away. All right. Next we have true or false. When considering blood donations, only the antibodies of the recipient need to be considered. True. False. And it is true. Only the antibodies of the recipient, because that's what will attach to the antigens. All right. Ooh, bright lemming, you're like a 2,000-point lead over blue dragon. Major constituent of blood plasma is water, electrolytes, dissolved gases, plasma proteins. Water, because water is the solvent that everything else is dissolved in, so it is water. Okay, Bright Lemming, second place. I think we lost our ferret. Second heart sound, dub, occurs due to the closing of the atrioventricular valves, opening of the semilunar valves, closing of the semilunar valves, opening of the atrioventricular valves. Closing of the semilunar valves. The semilunar, those are the second ones. All right. Ooh, blue dragon's getting closer. Okay. The main function of leukocytes is to transport oxygen, fight infection, clot blood, regulate temperature. What do leukocytes do? Leukocytes fight infection. There are white blood cells. Good. Fancy word for white blood cells. So everyone got to have an increase here. The large blood vessel that returns blood to the right atrium is called the aorta, vena cava, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. The vena cava. Deoxygenated blood goes back to the right atrium. Okay, next. The chamber of the heart that receives blood from the lungs is the left ventricle, left atrium, right ventricle. And we have the left atrium receives blood from the lungs. Good job, Blue Dragon. Okay, we are almost done. The movement of blood through the veins is done through. So how does blood get through the veins? Vasoconstriction, contraction of skeletal muscles, vasodilation, direct pumping action of the heart. Ooh, contraction of the skeletal muscles is what's going to push it up, not vasodilation, because it gets bigger. We're not going to have any push there. Okay, Blue Dragon, moving up a bit. What type of blood vessels carry blood away from the heart? Veins, arteries. Excellent. A is for away. Perfect. All right. And last question. An abnormally low heart rate is called bradycardia, hypocardia, tachycardia, or hypercardia. All right, no one got it. Brady is what we call, I know hypo is low, but Brady. So we have Joyful Glider with #1 place. Then quite a bit behind is Bright Lemming, and then just a little bit behind that is Blue Dragon. So good job, you guys. So that's a little review. I will be sharing this on Google Classroom as well. So you can do this at home on your own, just for more review. Do you get candy? No, I have nowhere to get you candy, Brayden, so I just can't do it. Sorry. But good job. And these are the kinds of questions you can expect to see on your test on Monday. So it was a little bit of a review. And like I said, you can do this again on your own. I'll share this with you before the end of the day today. So, all right, so that's it for the review. Any other questions about that? All right, so we are going to move on and start talking about the skeletal system. So I am showing that we have 5 other people besides me. Only 3 people were actively playing the game at the end, but that's okay. So let's talk about the skeletal system. So our unit is musculoskeletal, and I will just share that with you. Hold on, let me just get my notes here. Make sure I'm on the right ones. And these are the right ones. Okay, I'll share those with you. So we're doing a unit on musculoskeletal, and then our first section of that module, so it's another 1 credit course. So our first section of this 1 credit course is the skeletal system. So we have a lot of bones that we're going to learn about. Oh, hold on, I said I can't do this. Let me try this one more time. Let's go here. Why is this not letting me share? Oh, maybe because I took it off. Hold on. I just have to find it. Thought I had it open, but I did not. And let's get a skeletal. Oops. And skeletal. Okay, now I should be able to share that with you guys. Whatever opens for me. Slowly. Slowly, it's getting there. The sports booklet you got is for our very last module. So it's a module on sports nutrition. So sports medicine and nutrition. So we'll get to that for our very last one. So we'll start that probably the last week of May or first week of June. Okay, so now this should be good for me to go here. There we go. So we have musculoskeletal systems. So we are going to learn all about the skeleton. Okay, so this is our new module. So that's HSS 1050. So you guys are all on track to get your credit for our cardiovascular one. We will be doing the unit final quiz or what have you, Monday through Wednesday. So musculoskeletal system, we have to know all sorts of bones in the skeletal system. And then in the musculo part, the muscle part of that, we have to know different muscles. And then we're going to learn about joints. And then a little bit about keeping that part of our body healthy and some diseases. Okay, so the first thing we have here, because it is in the curriculum that we talk about parts of words. So in the skeletal system, we have os, osseo, or osteo. And all of those mean bone. So I put a word here, osteoporosis. Okay, and try that over there. So osteo is bone, porosis, something's getting pores or holes in it. So that's where a person's getting holes or their bones starting to weaken. Okay, but that's the osteo part. Okay, costo, that's our ribs. So see long words that kind of start with costo, that's usually what that is. So costochondritis, that's a condition because con, that's C-O-N-D, this is cartilage. This is ribs. And this is an infection or an inflammation. So if you have an inflammation in your ribs and it's kind of hurts to breathe a little bit, it has a little bit of pain, that's a condition called costochondritis. Ortho means to straighten. So we have orthotics, so that's to help our feet to be properly aligned. We have orthodontics, that's our braces for our teeth to be properly aligned. Thorax or thoraco, that's our chest. So we have our thoracic cavity. So that's kind of from the bottom of our neck, and that goes down to our abdomen. Okay. So where our diaphragm is, that's our thoracic cavity. So we're looking at our chest area. Cranial, that's our head or our skull. That's what that means. So our cranium is all the bone here that covers our brain. Okay. Doesn't include the facial bones, but it is all the stuff that covers our brain. Clast means broken. So we have this word osteoclast, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the skeletal system. Osteo means bone. Clast means broken. So these are particular cells that actually will break the bone down, because our bone's constantly breaking down and reforming and breaking down and reforming through a process called remodeling that we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's what an osteoclast is. Clav means bar. Our clavicle is this bone right here. That's our collarbone, okay? And it's kind of shaped like a bar. Okay, so those are the ones for this section. So in our bodies, we have 206 bones. So adults have that. Infants have more because their bones haven't all fused together. So we have bones that have actually fused. So we have fewer bones as a result of that. Okay, so 206 bones. You don't have to name all 206, but we are going to do quite a few of them. So this is going to require you to do a little bit of thinking about it. So I guess we can all be lucky that this is all open book for you. So we have the axial skeleton. So we have two parts to our skeleton. So the axial skeleton, that includes our head and then our trunk, okay? So our trunk is going from our neck down to just above our hips, okay? So that's our trunk. There's 80 bones there. So you're not going to memorize all 80 of them, but we are going to pick out a few of them that you're going to need to know. Then the next one is called the appendicular skeleton. So that includes our limbs. That's our arms and our legs and our fingers. That includes our shoulders, and that includes our hips. So our pelvic region, all those bones are included with this. There's 126 bones. And again, we don't have to know all of them, but we are going to pick the highlights. Okay, so we're going to start today with the axial skeleton. We have about 8 minutes, so we'll get through part of the axial skeleton. So we're going to start with the cranium. And the cranium has several bones that we can see here. So we see the bones. And if we were in a classroom, I would actually take a skull, a model of a skull, and show you. But we have all these little fissures that are joining all these plates in our skull together. Okay, so they're all fused together, but these fissures are easy to see in a skull. And then each one of these is counted as a different bone. So our first one is the frontal, or referring to the frontal bones, okay? So these are the bones that are right here in the front part of our skull, all right? Those are the frontal, so frontal. And interestingly enough, they cover the brain. The frontal lobe of the brain is right here, right underneath that. Next, we have the parietal bones, okay? One on the left, one on the right, and they're fused together in the middle, okay? So parietal bones. Then we have the temporal bones. So they're bones that are right by our ear. So those are the temporal bones. And then at the back of our skull, we have the occipital bone, okay? And these, again, all cover parts of our brain. So the parietal bones cover the parietal lobes of our brain. The temporal bones cover the temporal lobes, and the occipital bone covers the occipital lobe. And those are all things that, those lobes, if you take biology 30, we talk about them and what they do and all that stuff. Okay, now there's more. We can see that there's a bone here, and we can see there's a bone here. We're just going to name these 4 bigger ones, okay? So those are the ones that I'm going to make you responsible for knowing. All right, so the cranium is the chamber that encloses the brain. There's 8 cranial bones, okay? So that's it for that one. So those are the bones of the cranium. So now we're going to look at facial bones. So here's the bones, the facial bones here. So let's start the zygomatic bones. So they're right here. The zygomatic bones, they're our cheekbones. Okay, so if you can feel right there, that's your cheekbone. But we can see that that bone structure actually goes a little bit towards our eye socket. Okay. The next we have the maxilla. Now the maxilla, we can see that they're divided. There's actually two of them. There's one here. There's that's fused together there, and then there's one here. So that's this bone right here. Okay. So it's the top part of my jaw, and we can see that it also makes its way to be part of my orbit here, and it actually makes up part of my roof of my mouth. Okay, the bony part of that. And then the last one here, this is called the mandible. So the mandible, that's this bone here, that's where we chew. Okay, so mandible. So facial bones, what are they for? Well, they help to determine the shape of the face. So there's a whole industry of individuals who actually will use bones and then do measurements based on the age of the individual, etc., to pad fat, and then use that to come up with what the face of an individual looks like in order to try to identify them. Okay, so facial bones, they determine what our face looks like. We have 14 facial bones. You only need to be able to name these 3. Okay. They're attachment sites for muscles. So we have muscles that allow for our jaw to move when we talk or chew our food, and facial expressions. We have lots of muscles on our face that allow us to smile or frown and all those things. Okay. All right. So just a rundown of our facial bones. The maxilla, right? So that's this upper jaw right here, forms part of the palate. So the palate is our roof of our mouth, part of our nasal cavity, okay, our upper jawbone, our mandible, that's where we chew, that's our lower jaw. That's the only bone in our skull that moves. And then the zygomatic bones, these are our cheekbones right here, okay? All right. Now, it's also in the curriculum that we have to know the difference between an adult skull and a baby skull, okay? And the main difference, the thing you really need to know, is a term called fontanelles. So fontanelles, have you guys heard of babies being born and they have soft spots in their skull? Have you heard that? Someone ever talk about that? Soft spots? Baby has a soft spot, or don't touch the soft spot. Yeah. Okay, so all infants have it when they're born. Okay. All infants have soft spots. And basically what that means is that all of those we talked about, the frontal lobe, parietal, all those things, they're not fused together yet. So there's gaps, okay? And those gaps are just covered by skin. So if you took a baby with a soft spot and pushed far enough down on the soft spot, you'd actually hit brain. Obviously, you're not going to do that because they would suffer brain damage. But they don't have that bone. And evolutionary speaking, we have to think, well, why is that? The skull is really important to protect the bone from damage, but there's a couple of reasons why. One of the reasons is when a baby is being born, it's going through the birth canal. The birth canal is very small, and the baby's head is huge. It's 1/3 the size of its body. So in order to help with the birthing process, because those bones aren't fused together, they can overlap one another, and then that baby can make its way through the birth canal easier. So that's one of the reasons. Okay, so one of the reasons to allow the skull to change shape during childbirth. Okay, and then it just kind of pops back where it's supposed to be. And the other reason is to allow for really quick brain growth. Okay, so the baby goes through this massive brain growth, so it's not restricted by the skull. So this one here, there's usually one in the back that closes pretty early, after about 2 months after the baby's born. And then this one here at the top usually can take up to 1.5 years. Okay. I don't think it hurts the baby at all when it overlaps, because I don't think there's a lot of pain receptors there for the baby. And that's usually what happens because the birth canal is a pretty tight squeeze. So it just helps for that process to happen. All right. Okay, next we have The vertebral column. I think because we only have about a minute left here, we'll pause there and we will start on the vertebral column next class, and then we'll finish this book or this section of the skeletal system next class. Are there any questions about this or what's coming up or anything like that? All right, so you might want to just take a look at your notes a bit and to allow you to study for your test that's coming up on Monday, just so you're prepared for that. If you've got everything handed in as of Monday, then you're golden. You get that, you'll be getting that credit. And I think most of you have everything handed in anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. And yeah, that's it. So spend some time outside this weekend because it looks lovely, and maybe help your parents with some yard work. And I guess we'll sign off and we will see you guys on Monday. So don't forget, quiz starts 12 o'clock Monday is when I open it. All right, have a nice weekend, everyone.